helping CEOs and business leaders discover the energy to perform exceptional brilliance and positively impact the lives of those around them. Be inspired by world leaders and next-level gurus. This is the Active CEO podcast, where the ordinary don't belong. And now your hosts, Craig Johns and Ben Gathercole.
On this episode of the Active CEO podcast, we had the pleasure of speaking with a very humble, young, and disciplined leader. He was born in New York, grew up in Genoa, Italy, and has had job roles that took him to London and Madrid, where he worked at Pricewaterhouse Coopers, Netherlands, where he worked at APM Moller Maersk Group, and now based in Singapore, where he is a sixth-generation CEO of his family business, Fratelli Cosulich. This is a very proud Italian, is not only very organized and a compassionate leader, he is also a top age group triathlete competing in long-distance triathlon events around the world, including the Ironman. I would like to introduce and welcome you to our guest, Tim Cosulich. Tim, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Craig. It's really nice to be here.
So I've known you for a few years now, and we used to see you up in Asia. You were racing and doing very well in triathlons, and I always knew you as someone very astute. And talking to Jürgen, your coach, he was like, "Oh, you've got to get this guy on the show." So we're really excited to have you on today.
Thank you.
So Fratelli Cosulich, founded in 1857, is a very diverse company, active in a number of aspects of the shipping industry, from ship owning to ship agency, freight forwarding, catering, manning, yacht services, and marine fuel trading and supply. You've got a very big global business here with over 1,000 staff in more than 15 countries. What is your greatest challenge in dealing with multiple cultures, time zones, and industries?
Well, I think the main is really being able to maintain a productive and nice interaction with my people, because I really see the job of the CEO as really being able to motivate and find out what motivates our people. And as much as nowadays we have technologies that allow us to communicate and do video conferencing and everything, it's still very difficult to substitute completely the real human interaction. And so the biggest challenges I have are really making sure that I'm physically present with my people when they need, and that I take time to spend with them.
What do you think are the advantages and disadvantages of leading a family-owned business?
So the main advantage I see is really in the relationship that we are able to establish with our people. It's not just a job. We don't reduce headcount when things don't go well, when volumes are down. We always find a way to either relocate our people to position them in another department, or to find them a role within the company or within the group. And this effort from the company in looking after its people is then really translates into different relationship with our people. Our people, they put a different efforts. They really see things long term. They're not so interested about success today, but they're more interested in success in the next years. And that is something that is quite rare, I think, in let's call them normal companies.
Very comforting for your employees, I would imagine, to know that you don't just lay people off, and that you are looking to try and boost other areas that need help, or find ways to keep them engaged when you are having some tough times or there are some challenges that you face.
Yes, no, that's very important. It shouldn't be confused with lack of performance. I mean, we have let people go because of lack of performance. So there's, I think we are quite demanding in terms of performance, but we do not want them to generate insecurity in our people just based on how the economy goes, because that's something that's sometimes just out of control for our people and for us.
So, coming from Italy, I mean, obviously you've had quite a global experience. Do you take kind of that Italian style of leadership and business and replicate that around the world, or do you have to adapt a lot?
I think it's really about adapting. Having a global business means that you have people from different cultures and different habits. And sometimes, I get asked, what is your leadership style? And I think it's not so much about leadership style. I mean, you have your values, and those are important, and I don't think those change, regardless of where you are in the world. But your approach has to be different depending on the culture, also depending on the level of experience of the person you are leading. You cannot have the same leadership style and the same approach with someone who has 2 years work experience compared to someone who has 30 years work experience. You cannot be as hands-on with someone who's very experienced as you would be with a new joiner. I think it's very important to being able to adapt to different cultures. And having worked in Northern Europe for many years, I was initially very used to a very direct form of communication. And when I moved to Asia, that generated a bit of problems for me, at least at the beginning, because I was not getting the reactions I was expecting.
So leading in Asia now, how has that changed your leadership style? And, maybe can you expand a little bit around the key aspects that you find really important in the way you lead your people?
So I think the main part was really this understanding that depending on where you are, you need to be very aware of cultural differences. Even if I traveled to different places and lived in many different countries, even before coming to Asia, until I came to Asia, I wasn't 100% aware of how important this cultural aspect is. And so that was the main eye-opening experience for me. Then coming to Asia specifically, I think it's really about being respectful of how they think, how they work, their habits. Obviously, this concept of not losing face for them is very important. So while in Northern Europe, you would just openly say during a meeting that you're wrong, or you're not doing a good job, and that is absolutely fine. Although obviously the recipient of the feedback will not be pleased, but that's absolutely acceptable. In Asia, that is absolutely a big no. If you want to give, let's say, negative feedback, you do it on a one-on-one, and you also find a certain way to do it. It has to be much smoother and constructive than it would be in another culture.
So, Tim, you talk about Northern Europe and then now into Asia. How would you perceive you do the same sort of thing in North America?
North America is somewhere in between, I would say. It's not as direct as Northern Europe, but it's certainly more similar to Northern Europe than it is to Asia. And I think in the US, although I have to give a disclaimer here. Although I lead people in the US, I've never lived in the US. So my understanding of the American culture is not as complete as is of other parts of the world. So that's, I think, also important. But my perception that it's definitely closer to a European culture than to an Asian culture.
So how would you're obviously a top triathlete and you're dealing in performance there. How would you define high performance as a CEO?
High performance as a CEO. I think ultimately is really how well are you able to motivate your people. Because people are motivated by different things and also different types of jobs, and you have those who like routine, those who like unexpected things every day, those who like traveling, and those who like to stay at their desk all the time. And as a CEO, you have to make sure that everyone is motivated. You cannot have the same approach to everyone, and you have to make sure that you have everyone performing at their best. Maybe you can compare it to the job of a coach. A coach has a number of athletes they coach, and they have to make sure that they all make the most out of their skills.
So, Tim, with performance being so important to you, as a CEO, how do you have some rituals or some, habits that you use to bring your A game to work every day, or when you're motivating your people?
One thing is, for example, when I'm in the office, I need to be in the office also mentally. I make an effort not to be elsewhere. So normally my normal days, I wake up around 5. I train 5 to 7. Then I have breakfast. I play a little bit with my son, and then around probably 8:30 or 8:45, I start replying to emails from the day before, because of course I have all the backlog of emails from US and Europe, but I do it at home, and I do it at home because when I come to the office, I want to be done with all that, and I want to be able to be present physically and mentally for my people here. So that is probably one of the important things I focus on, is this being present, and the same applies to when I travel and when I spend time with the people from the different offices. I want to be present mentally, so I don't want to be there looking at my phone all the time and looking if I have emails and everything, because of course I have emails, but ultimately if I'm there traveling to see these guys, it's because I want to spend time with them and listen to them.
So do you only answer emails in the morning, or do you have other times during the day that you allocate for answering?
Yeah, I have other times. No, I wish I could afford to have only a morning email session, but no, the reality is I answer emails throughout the day. But let's say that the effort I make is that when I'm in a meeting, I do not look at emails.
That's commendable, because there's not a lot of people that can actually do that. So congratulations there.
No, well, I said I make an effort. I didn't say I managed to do it.
So the family values and rituals must be very ingrained and hold very strong in all decisions that are made. What words would you associate with the company? So
the main aspect, I think, the main value that we have is really passion for what we do, and the passion is important because it really relates to why people join our business. And as a family member, I was never forced to join the business, but I was always told by my father that if I wanted to join the business at some point, that they would happily consider it, but that I would never become a multi-billionaire or have a Ferrari or a private yacht. And that if money was the main driver, then probably I would have made more money somewhere else. And that is important because it allows us as a company to select those who want to join only or mainly because they're passionate about the business, they're passionate about being entrepreneurs, they're passionate about the integrity that we have as a group. So integrity probably is the other word that comes to mind. And we see that in many aspects of how we run our business. For example, in 161 years of the business, we've never distributed dividends. So we've always reinvested 100% of the profits into the business. So you hear a lot about owners who say, my business is my life and I do everything for it. But then every year they take a lot of money out of the business. For us, it's quite an important message that we send to our people as well, because they see that we as a family, we literally put all our money into the business. So it's really about commitment, passion, and integrity, I would say.
Tim, I'd like to ask you, so far in your CEO career, what's been your proudest moment? Because just by the sound of what you're talking about there, not distributing dividends and just the proudness I can sense in your voice, there's some amazing moments already.
So I've had a lot of difficult moments because we've had offices that were not doing very well. We've had offices where I found out that managers were not super honest, let's put it this way. Those were tough moments where I learned everything I didn't learn during my MBA, I learned it there. And then I would say that, going back to your question, solving those situations is then what kind of pays for all that suffering in a way, and the satisfaction of seeing an office turned around that is now very successful after going through a lot of difficult times and changes. That is really the main satisfaction, as well as seeing young people who join the company and they grow, they get more experience, and in some cases it happens that they leave because another challenge that we have as a family business is also kind of adapting to a society where there's the concept of employment for life doesn't really exist anymore, because of course if you look at millennials and new generations, after 2-3 years in a role, it's enough for them. So it's I think adapting to that trend is very important for us. And for me, if I see someone who's been with us and has worked really hard and well for 2-3 years, and then they decide to do something else, I'm disappointed, of course, but at the same time, I'm happy to see people developing. So I would say those are my proudest moments.
Tell us about your sporting background and life as a professional athlete before you got into triathlon.
Yeah, so I've always been sporty. I've always liked sports, and my main sport has been water polo for many years. And I've played water polo in many countries, in Italy, in the UK, in Spain, in the Netherlands, always in either first or second division. Never made it to national team, but I was an okay water polo player. And water polo has always struck me as a very nice sport in terms of a good mix of endurance and team sport, and sport that requires a lot of discipline and dedication. So I think that was a very nice way also for me to integrate in new cultures every time I was changing city. So when I moved to the UK, I found a team and immediately had a group of friends. Then I moved to Spain, and again, same thing. I had a group of friends there who were my teammates, and the same in the Netherlands and so on. And then at some point, I decided to give it a go with triathlon, and that was a bit unexpected. What happened was that one of my little sisters was diagnosed with brain cancer, and then eventually, long story short, she had surgery. Everything went unexpectedly well, and now she's fine. She has an absolutely normal life, and she's 100% recovered. But at that time, doctors told us that there would be basically no chance that she would make it, also because she was 10 years old at the time, and it was too long of a surgery for a small body, etc., etc. And so then, when everything went fine, we from the family, we all felt that we had to give back some of the luck that we had as a family, and that is when I thought, okay, how can I raise some money for this hospital, this pediatric hospital where she was treated? And then I'd heard about this Ironman thing, but I didn't really know what it was. And so I registered. It was Ironman Zurich in 2010, and this was 6 months before the race. At that point, I had never cycled in my life. Well, I obviously cycled as a kid, but never really with a road bike. I was a good swimmer, of course, because I was playing water polo. but I was not a good runner at all, so I thought, okay, I'll certainly get some people interested in this Ironman thing if I register and if I start raising money for it. And so then I asked colleagues, family, and friends to commit to donating a certain amount to this hospital, depending on how I would do at the race. So I gave them 4 options. I said, I would like you to commit today, 6 months before the race, to donating a certain amount in case I register, just because you want to donate, or another amount if I finish, another amount if I finish within 14 hours, or another amount if I finish within 12 hours. And then, of course, I explained what the Ironman was. I also explained a little bit about my sporting background and my fitness level and everything. And for me, I think that the biggest surprise was how big of a difference there is between when you train with a purpose as opposed to when you train just for the sake of it. And in this case, I was really training because I wanted these people to donate to the hospital, and that gave me a completely different view and push in what I was doing.
And Tim, can you recall the amount that was donated to the hospital?
Yes, it was. Basically, the way it works is, as I said, people were committing to donating a certain amount depending on my performance. So the commitment, in case I participated, regardless of the result, was about $20,000 US. Whereas on the other end of the spectrum, the commitment to donate in case I finished within 12 hours was just over $100,000.
Wow.
And that was also because the way I phrased the email and the communication, I made it look like it was impossible that I would finish within 12 hours, and which was, I mean, it was intentional, but it wasn't entirely untrue, in the sense that I had never cycled before, and of course, in 6 months going from there to cycling 180 kilometers and then running a marathon, I was also not entirely sure about my ability to do it. So anyway, eventually I managed to do it. I finished in 10 hours and 26 minutes. So then I was able to raise the whole $100,000.
What a fantastic achievement! Congratulations! What a journey!
Thank you. Yeah, it was really nice.
So you obviously you got the bug after that first Ironman. You continued on, and you ended up competing in the Holy Grail of triathlon in the Ironman World Championships in Kona, Hawaii. Tell us about that journey to Kona and what your experience was like racing the lava fields.
Yeah, so it was amazing. I remember after Ironman Zurich, well, of course, as everyone says, everyone during the race says, why am I here? I'm not going to do it ever again. And to a certain extent, that was my feeling at the time. I thought, well, I like this triathlon thing, but I think I would probably prefer shorter distance. So that is actually what I did. I focused on half distance for a few years, and until then I met with my coach Jürgen, and we were talking, and somehow Kona came up as a topic, and I asked him, "Do you think I could qualify one day?" And he said, "Well, if you train enough, you could make it." And so that's when we started trying, and we together we decided that Ironman Langkawi in Malaysia would be the best race for me to give it a try, because it's a hot race. I race quite well in the heat. Also, it's very close to Singapore, so logistically it wouldn't require too much traveling and no time zone differences and so on. So I raced in Langkawi and won my age group and qualified, and that was really, really nice. I think that racing in Kona was fantastic, but Ironman Malaysia, when I qualified, that was really almost the end of the journey for me, because for me it was a goal to go to Kona, and the hardest part was really to be able to qualify for it. And then going to Kona was a fantastic experience. I also got married just a couple of weeks before Hawaii, so we went to Hawaii for a honeymoon. Although my wife will tell you that wasn't our honeymoon, that I still owe her a honeymoon, and it was really good. We spent a couple of weeks there, and being there with all these people, best in the world, and fantastic atmosphere. So it was of course as tough as expected, but again the experience was fantastic.
And look, yeah, I know going to Kona, it's one of those amazing places, but it's kind of weird, right? You qualify and you're like, oh wow, I've done it. Like so much emotions go in behind that. And then you get to the big dance, you get to Kona, and it's like you just go and enjoy it a little bit more. So it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
So Tim, with those fantastic triathlon experiences, what do you think? The similarities between a high performance CEO and a high performance triathlete might be.
I think number one is discipline. Because you need discipline in both aspects. As you know, in triathlon, when the alarm goes off at 5 a.m., I am not lying. It's of course I also would like to sleep a little bit longer, but eventually you have a goal, and you need commitment, and then you just get out of bed and you start training. And the same goes for the role of the CEO. It's not nice all the time. You have tough moments. You have a lot of moments in which you're alone, in which you have to decide things on your own, knowing that you might be wrong. You have to take your responsibilities, and you have to be there. You have to be there all the time. So one of the things I was discussing with my wife recently is that since I joined my family business, I've never set my out of office on my email. Because I'm never out of the office. Although I might go on holiday for a few days here and there, but I'm always available. So I think it can be tough in the long term, but I think it's one of the aspects of the job.
So obviously a lot of resilience is required, and you've got to be thinking that kind of that long game. And you've been with your coach, Jürgen Zach, now for quite a number of years. So why is having a coach so important to you? And also, what is Jürgen's greatest asset as a coach?
Yeah, so the importance of the coach is twofold for me. One is, of course, a coach brings his experience, his knowledge, and that's a huge added value, of course, assuming it's the right coach. On the other hand, for me, it's also important to be able to not think about what am I supposed to do, because thinking about what am I supposed to do is already what I do all the time for my job and for my family, and I don't want to be thinking about, okay, should I run, should I swim hard or easy, should I take a day off? I really prefer to outsource all that to someone who knows more than me, and who can help me with that. Also with Jürgen, since we've been working together for a number of years now, he also knows my strengths, he knows my weaknesses, he also knows what I can do and what I cannot do in terms of when I'm traveling. He knows that when I'm in London, I can go running, but I cannot go cycling. He knows that when I'm in Italy, I have indoor trainer at home, and then there's a swimming pool where I can go swimming. I can go and ride on the hills. He knows that when I'm in Singapore, there's no hills, there's only flat, but I have a 50 meters pool just downstairs. So there's a lot of efficiency that we've gained over the years by knowing each other. and we share a calendar, so he knows when I travel, he knows where I am, and he is very good at adapting the training schedule to my family and business needs. In terms of Jürgen himself, I think that the one thing that attracted me to joining his team and to him as a coach was his being so approachable and available and nice to everyone, regardless of whether they were top performing athletes or beginners. And you see that he's not only a very knowledgeable and experienced coach, but he's very passionate about what he does, and he loves sharing his knowledge. He loves giving advice and talking to people, and that's really the type of person I want to work with. Someone who likes his job and who's not arrogant, who's not only talking to someone because that's a top athlete. So it's really his qualities as a person that brought me to him.
Yeah, he's a pretty amazing guy and done a really, really good job from the coaching point of view.
Yeah.
We all know smart people have great answers, but the best people have great questions. So when was the last time you did something for the first time?
Well, that's quite easy. I just last week I went for the first time to a shipyard in the south of Japan and spent a few days there with seeing how these people work, the passion that they put into what they do. It was really eye-opening. There was this ship that was going to be inaugurated, and when the ship sailed off, the workers on the yard, they started crying. And that for me was incredible. I mean, it's a ship, but for them it was really like their baby, and they've been working on this ship for 2 years. And the fact that the ship was sailing off and they wouldn't see the ship again, it was very emotional, and so it was really impacting for me to see this sea.
You're a very proud nation.
Yes, incredible,
and rightly so. Now, Tim, as the CEO of your company, what health and wellness initiatives do you try and impart across the board with everybody?
Yes, so one easy thing that I do is I give every employee an allowance, $50 per month, to be spent on sport-related activities, whether it's signing up for a race or going to a yoga class or signing up for a gym. And that's something that basically every employee has access to. I also organize for maybe a couple of times a year to go for a run. Altogether, maybe we sign up for a race with people from the office. And then the other two things I do are mostly trying to be an example, and I share a little bit of what I do and my passion for triathlon. Trying to send a message that it's good to have a balanced life, that life is not just working or watching TV or going shopping, but it's also spending time outdoor and doing sports. And then I also volunteer as a coach for disabled kids for running. These are kids with mental disabilities, and so I also involve some of my employees in this, and I try to take them with me to this training session with these disabled kids, and that's a very impactful experience, because you see the passion and effort that these kids put into what they do, despite their disabilities, and after that you really feel so lucky about being able to do whatever you want. But then you yourself, you also put more effort and more passion in what you do.
That's a very humbling experience, no doubt. Yeah, definitely. I guess a final question from me, Tim, is who's made the greatest impact on your career, and why is that so?
I would say my father has made the biggest impact. He's been a role model and an example for me, and seeing how hard he has worked all his life, and again the passion that he put in what he was doing, and then at the same time feeling his support regardless of whether I joined the family business or not. He always wanted me to work hard. He always wanted me to have interest, to have a hobby, to do sports and everything. But I've always felt the support from him, and never felt any sort of pressure. So definitely, I would say that my father is the one who had the biggest impact.
That's great, and you can really see that family bond there coming through, and everything you've spoken about today. So it's really nice. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today, Tim. We've got some wonderful insights into the way that you lead a global team, working inside a family business, and the advantages and disadvantages to that. A lot of the performance aspects that you see in both an athlete and in the CEO world, and how you connect them together. So it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today, Tim. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much to you both. It was a pleasure being here, and a great idea with this podcast.
Oh, thank you. We hope you enjoy it, and I know a lot of our listeners are getting some great feedback, and we'll learn a lot from you today.
Thank you.
Our active CEO wellness tip is around the concept of how you increase your exercise, and how you increase your exercise safely and not overdoing it, so to speak.
Yeah, because you want to increase your workout length, your intensity and volume, but when do you know when to do that, and how much do you want to increase it by?
Yeah, look, there's definitely a general rule of thumb that says a 5 to no more than 10% type rule on a building over each week is a really good way to start. But I guess my idea would be consult with your coach.
Oh, definitely, because if you increase more than 10% in one hit, then you put a lot of stress loads on things like your muscles, your ligaments, tendons, bones, and other major organs. And the last thing you want to do is for one of them to rupture or to break, and then you're back to square one, or maybe even further back, where you've got to rebuild and recovery process from that injury.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know it's a big one that both myself and Craig talk about is the periodization. So you sort of work on a 3-week cycle where you build up over a period of 3 weeks, and then the 4th week might be a deload or a recovery or an adaptation to the workload type week. So you don't just continue to try and build. You just get flat and stale and injured. You need to have that sort of method where you're deloading or adapting to the workload.
Yeah, it's really important to remember you don't actually get faster or stronger while you're doing the workout or putting the stress loads on. It's when you're recovering. So you've got to get that stress load, building up the stress load, and then getting that recovery right, so that you get the optimal performance gains in both your strength, your speed, your power. Yep. Over the long term.
And look, it'd have to be no different in your working life also, Craig. When you have those really heavy weeks and you're just going day after day after day after day, that's not sustainable. And you really need to plan in a bit of a deload, or the adaptation is not the right word for work stress, but just a bit of a break from the workload.
And that's where a business coach or a life coach or even your sporting coach can talk to you about that around, okay, well, how long can I stress myself in the workplace before I need to back off? And it's both a mental aspect as well as a physical one, and people don't realize that. Well, you've got to take that break, and it's challenging, right? Especially when you're a CEO, where you think you have to be on the whole time, and sometimes you do for a period of time, but for the long end game, it's important that you get the recovery so you can recharge the batteries and be able to deliver high performance to your staff, to your clients, and ensure that the business is growing effectively.
Yeah, and that's that whole concept we've spoken about before about being reactive or working and being proactive with how you plan your workload.
Ben, it's been another exciting show. You're having Timothy Cosulich on the call today, in from Singapore. What an amazing guy, to be able to step outside the family, go work in other countries, work for other people, and then prove to both himself and to his family that he was ready to come into the family business.
Yeah, and what a fantastic concept about the family business. They just don't take family in. You really have to go out and find your feet, so to speak, in the business world, and then you still have to apply for the job. That was really interesting to hear also.
Yeah, I think it's important. It's showing to the rest of the organisation. They've got 1,000 staff that you've got to prove that you have the qualities to deliver performance in that business. And, they're wanting to be the best shipping company in the world. They don't want to be just another shipping company.
And how interesting was it when he was explaining that they don't pay dividends to themselves. For 7 generations, 170 years, was it?
Yeah, pretty close to that.
They'd been putting every bit of money back into the business. That's astounding, really.
Yeah, it shows the pride and the humility that they have for making a difference in the world and delivering a product or opportunities for people to be able to move products around the world and do it in the most efficient manner. And it's not about having a Ferrari or having that lavish lifestyle that they potentially could have. They're a big company.
Yeah, he spoke to us about that. It was quite, I guess, a very humble man, but a very humble family, obviously, and very proud at what they do.
Well, that humbleness really shone through when he talked about why he did his first Ironman and how that came about. He talked about an incredibly tough period of that family's life where they've got a young girl who's got brain cancer, just told probably that she won't be able to handle the therapy
surgery,
because it was so tough. And she made it through that resilience they found, and then for them to turn around and do something that allowed them to earn money. And what a clever way for raising funds.
Yeah, absolutely. What an astounding story that is.
Impressive. I like the way that he went, okay, well, I'm just to turn up how much, and then here's my performance goals. And it's a great way to look at performance incentives in a business as well. How can you do that to not only reward and recognize your staff, but to really motivate them to go, all right, you can deliver this, but if you deliver this, here's a greater outcome.
And talking about motivating his staff and his people, how about that incentive of $50 per month to every employee to have some sort of active lifestyle? I mean, that's a massive financial commitment, and it didn't sound like Tim was worrying about the financial. He was genuinely concerned about people's wellness. How fantastic is that?
Yeah, brilliant. And then I think what he said, 3 or 4 times a year, he tried to he picked a race or a run or something they did together. And I think that's really important too. So it's not only just about that health and wellness of looking after your individual self, but it's also around creating that support network around and helping everyone else like a team to reach their goals or do something together and bring people closer as a company.
You can certainly say Tim falls in the category of active CEO, and certainly where the ordinary don't belong would be certainly something you could say about Tim.
Oh yeah, and you can see that. And he's worked in different countries around the world. You could see it probably in his voice today where he was thinking a lot because he's dealing with English second language here, and a lot of our guests are like that. So you have to be a little bit patient when you listen to them. But they've got some the depth of knowledge that he's got there, and his real passion to be active and healthy and make a difference and deliver as a CEO. This is the Active CEO, where the ordinary don't belong.
Join the Active CEO movement by visiting www.nrg2perform.com. That's NRG2perform.com. Share this podcast on LinkedIn and be sure to tag in NRG to Perform. Leave a review on iTunes. Drop us a line with your feedback and questions, and connect with us on the NRG to Perform Facebook and Instagram pages. Be sure to check out the next Active CEO podcast, where the ordinary don't belong.